It's very interesting. I think people start getting signals, if you will, about aging, very early on. In your 30s, for sure, 30s, 40s. It used to be that when I started doing this 20 years ago, my average patient was mid 50s and up. And every decade that's gone by, that's lowered by 10 years. And now the average age is certainly in the 40s, and with dozens of men and women in their 30s, because now they're aware of the literature, it's being talked about, could be low T, and so for anyone early on, I think we ignore the warning signs, so to speak, all the time. Because what happens is our hormone levels start declining. And since we're bombarded with so many things from an environmental standpoint, with microplastics, estrogenic compounds, soy proteins, different things that, lower testosterone levels significantly, from cookware to processing of foods, and that, we just don't want to accept that, especially in your 30s or even 40s, that, this might be related to aging. We're not sure what it is. We don't feel our best. And so we start looking at other things, sleep, supplements. I need to be on NAD+. Well, yes, you probably do. Or what about peptides for energy or for growth hormone? Yeah, you probably need that too. But, what the truth is that our hormone levels decline. They're inversely related to levels of inflammation. So we start to have aches and pains. Maybe you're not seeing as good of results at the gym, or your recovery time's slower. You're just sore and stiff after a leg day, another day longer than it used to be, or you used to be fine the next morning, and now you're still stiff and sore. So there are a lot of clues, I think. Certainly things start slipping a bit with memory. We walk in a room and, what did I come in here to get? If you're 35, you don't want to accept the fact that may be related to hormone levels, that things are changing a bit, because I never used to see that, in 30-something year olds, and we see it all the time now. And so, the sooner I think someone's evaluated, the sooner we do blood work, we look at levels, I can almost promise you that most of what you would have done with your primary care and well-meaning, well-trained primary care physicians will be, well, yeah, you're in the normal range. Your testosterone is 400. You're okay. Well, maybe you're not. That certainly is not an optimal range, which is the upper limits of normal, which would be 800, 900, 1,000, 1,100. But we're not, the physicians are just not trained to recognize that, and then to know what to do. Would I give you testosterone as a man in his, early to mid 30s? The answer is absolutely not. We do other things. We try to stimulate testosterone production. So, it's really funny. The signs and warning signs, so to speak, are things that we start seeing at a younger age that, maybe it's not on the front burner, that somebody's like, well, I don't know, maybe it could be low T. I saw that commercial the other day, and, you're thinking about things. And so it is essential, I think, to seek out someone skilled and trained in, bioidentical hormone therapy and managing these kind of things for all kinds of people, men and women of varying ages. And this is kind of the time of year when we tend to be under more stress with family matters, holidays, travel, trying to fit all this in a busy lifestyle. And as our stress levels go up and your cortisol levels go up, that's inversely related to the good hormones, to testosterone levels and growth hormone. It suppresses the hormone levels that you want to have in the best ranges. And so, I think the question comes up, or can at times of, well, what do we do about this during the holidays? Well, have an awareness, try to get more sleep, obviously eat well and have a good quality, high protein, very low carb diet, take good nutritional supplements, look at the nutrients and supplements that are available on our website. We do micronutrient testing with people all over the world. We can easily ship someone a kit to order through a finger stick method and send off micronutrient testing. Do we even do fit gut testing that way, testing for, reactivity to 176 different foods? There's many things that we can help identify. And that's really the first step to, gee, I'm not feeling my best. What could be wrong? Well, we want to talk and identify things that we can look at that can easily make a positive impact in the way that we feel. And so really being our best going into these more stressful times of year. So how do we stimulate testosterone production in younger men is very simple. We use N-clomiphene or clomiphene and HCG, human chorionic gonadotropin, sometimes individually, often using both of them together for really the best result. And they act like a substance called luteinizing hormone from the pituitary. That is, the pituitary is always looking out and kind of monitoring the hormone levels. And when it sees that there isn't enough of a particular hormone, it sends a message through the bloodstream to, in this case, the testicles, to a small degree to the adrenals, in women to the ovaries, to increase production of those hormones. And so we know with men, we can step in, and when that message isn't there naturally, sometimes it's because the pituitary is just not functioning the way that it should. So we can give these substances to stimulate production. And other times it's just that the factory's not working so well, whether that be a woman's ovaries or a man's testicles, that for a number of reasons, toxic, a life of toxic compounds and bombardment with different chemicals that are in our environment, whether it's intentional or unintentional, affects all of those things. That is a huge factor now in why we see, men and women in their 30s, because, years before menopause for women, testosterone, progesterone levels, PMS, undiagnosed PCOS syndrome. You don't have to be obese and have acne to have PCOS. It can be very mild with just alterations in progesterone and thyroid hormone have a big impact on improvement of those things for women. So if someone's interested in testing, and it's like, yeah, I want to know what my vitamin levels are, what the micronutrients show, or I read about this fit gut test. You can just Google it to read about it. It tests not for food allergies so much, but for reactivity to 176 different foods. It shows whether you have components from gram-negative cells in the gut lining that may contribute to leaky gut syndrome, which has many, long list of various symptoms, from fatigue to actual stomach and digestive issues to joint pain, body aches, and general loss of sense of well-being. So those are things that you can just make a quick call to our office, look at the number below, and we can ship those kits to you. They're very easy to follow the instructions on how to properly do the finger stick to get a few drops of blood for us to be able to utilize that testing. And then if we're concerned about more, as in hormone testing, blood levels, etc., we can send you to a LabCorp anywhere in America. It's very simple to do. We get results in about a week's time, and we set up a telemedicine visit to discuss it. You may or may not be a candidate to do anything further, but I talk to people all over the world, and, there's a lot to be said for peace of mind. just knowing that, hey, no, it doesn't look that bad. Keep doing the things that you're doing, or here's a few suggestions. And to, well, yeah, maybe we need to get together and try and do something about that situation.